If you want to see solvent B, then here also mole fraction of B, and we are taking in the numerator B component, in the denominator total A and B. If you join or if you add all the fractions of moles of all the component, it will be equal to 1. Non-polar molecules will dissolve in non-polar solvent. Polar molecules will dissolve in polar solvents. Hello everyone, this is Harshita Bhavasar from Vidyashram PU College, Temple of Excellence. Today I am going to start session 2 in the chapter Solutions. Okay, in the last class we have seen the introduction, types of solutions. In that, solid solutions, liquid solutions and gaseous solutions we have seen with various examples also. In today's class, we will see mole fraction, mass percentage and solubility overall concept. This mole fraction and mass percentage expressing the units of concentration of solution. In the last class, we have discussed about molality. Till that we have discussed. In today's class, we are continuing that expressing the units of concentration of solution, that is mole fraction, mass percentage, volume percentage, mass by volume percentage, later solubility of substances. We will see now mole fraction. Mole fraction of a component in a solution is the ratio of number of moles of that component to the total number of moles of all the components. If you want to see an individual componental moles, then you have to write it in numerator, and in the denominator you have to take overall or total moles of that component. Okay. If in the some box A, B, C if it is present, you want to check with A substance moles, you have to write it in numerator, later in the denominator A, B and C, that is the total component of a system or total moles of a component. Okay. Let us consider a binary solution that contains Na moles of solvent A and Nb moles of the solute B. Here we are finding out the binary solution mole fraction, and we are considering the example of binary solution. There only two components will be present, we know that. So, mole fraction of a solvent A is given by Xa, that is mole fraction of A equal to Na divided by Na plus Nb. Here we are finding out for A. So, we have written in numerator. This is total moles of the component. Two component is present, that is why total two component. If you want to see solvent B, then here also mole fraction of B, and we are taking in the numerator B component, in the denominator total A and B. Number of moles of A plus number of moles of B. For a solution that contains a large number of components A, B, C, D, E till I, mole fraction of component D given by, if it is more than 2 also, we are finding out for D means we have to write in numerator D, later in the denominator everything till A to I. Okay, like that we have to consider and we have to follow the mole fraction formula. And some of the important points have been given for the mole fraction. Sum of mole fractions of all the components in a solution is given is always equal to 1. See here, if you take the example of binary solution, that is Xa plus Xb will be equivalent to 1. Okay, because mole fraction means that only determines it will be in fraction. If you join or if you add all the fractions of moles of all the component, it will be equal to 1. Mole fraction is defined to a component and not to the solution. In the component, how many number of moles will be present, it will be defined by mole fraction, but not to the solution. Mole fraction has no unit. If you see the formula, at the end there was no unit at all, so it does not have any unit. This unit is highly useful in the calculation of partial pressure of a component gas in a solution of gases. This partial pressure you have been seen in your previous classes, that is states of matter. So, in the partial pressure of a component of a gas in a solution, this mole fraction or unit will be used. Calculation of relative partial pressures of the vapor which is in the equilibrium with the solution. Here also you can be used. We will see one problem. Calculate the mole fraction of ethylene glycol in a solution containing 20% of ethylene glycol by mass. Here we will see now 20% of ethylene glycol means 20 gram ethylene glycol present in 100 gram of solution. Okay, 20% means 20 in 100. So WB will be 20 gram. WA will be, they have not given WA, so you have to subtract from overall to given mass. So 100 minus 20, 80 gram. So molar mass of ethylene glycol will be 62 gram per mole, and molar mass of water will be 18 gram per mole. Now you have to identify that number of moles of ethylene glycol, that will be B, that is NB equal to WB by MB. Okay, 20 by 62, 0.322 mole. Here they have not given NB only, that's why we are calculating by this formula WB by MB. Okay, same thing, number of moles of water Na equal to WA by MA, 80 by 18, 4.444 mole. Now you have to find out the mole fraction by applying this NB, Na, everything. So XB equal to NB by Na plus NB, because why XB means we are finding out for ethylene glycol, that will be NB, and 0.322 divided by 4.444 plus 0.322 equivalent to 0.0685. So this is the mole fraction of ethylene glycol. Next we will see mass percentage. It will be denoted by small w by W. Mass percentage of a solution is defined as the number of parts by mass of the solute dissolved in 100 parts by mass of the solute. Here also we are finding out percentage of the mass of solute present in 100 parts of the solution. So formula is mass percentage equal to mass of the solute divided by mass of the solvent into 100. Percentage means you have to put in 100. This definition itself is going to tell mass of the solute divided by mass of the solvent. So its unit will be under grams only. So units of the two masses should be same. If you want to find out mass percentage, this mass of the solute and mass of the solvent should have same units. Next, volume percentage. It is similar to mass percentage only. There we were finding out mass of the solute divided by mass of solution into 100. Here same thing, volume of solute divided by volume of solution into 100, because volume percentage of a solution is defined as the number of parts of volume of solute is dissolved in 100 parts of the solution, 100 parts by volume of the solution. So your formula will be volume percentage will be equivalent to volume of solute divided by volume of the solvent or solution into 100. And here also two units of volume of solute and volume of solution should be same. And this unit is more useful when both the solute and solvents are liquids. When solute and solvent are liquid state, then it will be useful very much. Mass by volume percentage, it will be denoted by small m by small v. As I said already, mass percentage and volume percentage, like that only mass by volume percentage. Mass by volume percentage of a solution is defined as the number of parts of mass of the solute dissolved in 100 parts by volume of the solution. Then amount of mass of solute is dissolved in number of parts of or 100 parts by volume of the solution. It will be defined by the formula mass by volume percentage is equal to mass of the solute divided by volume of the solution into 100. In this case, generally gram and cm cube are used as the units, otherwise system of units should be same. Okay. So mass by volume percentage means mass of solute divided by volume of solution into 100. We will see parts per million ppm. Parts per million of a solute is defined as the number of parts of solute dissolved in 1 million parts of the solution. Means number of parts of solute is dissolved in 1 million parts of solution. So it will be into 10 to the power of 6. Means million means 6 zeros will be there. So 6. Number of parts of the solute divided by number of parts of the solution into 10 to the power of 6. The units of the parts of the solute and solution should be same. same unit should be there, and parts per million also expressed in W by W, V by V and W by V. This unit is suitable when solutes are present in trace quantities. Whenever it is in trace quantities means minute quantities will be there, then this unit will be more suitable. Till here the expressing units to identify or to determine the concentration of solution is completed. Next we will see solubility. Solubility in the sense when the solute or any substance like salt or sugar dissolved in water, which is a solvent, then what it will do? It will leave the solute phase and it will jump to the solvent phase, correct? That process will be called it as dissolution or solubility. So, we will see here, when a solute is mixed with solvent, particles of the solute leave the solute phase and get mixed with the particles of the solute solvent phase. This process is known as dissolution. Okay, means solute will get dissolved in solvent. Compounds like sugar, potassium nitrate, ammonium nitrate, etc. dissolved in water, whereas they are insoluble in benzene or ether. We have told that solute will dissolve in solvent, so we will call it as dissolution. But all the compounds will not dissolve in water, and also all the other compounds will not dissolve in other organic reagents also. Like example, sugar, ammonium nitrate, any etc. compounds will dissolve in water but not in benzene or ether, which is a organic reagent. Okay. But compounds like naphthalene, anthracene, diphenyl etc. dissolve in solvents like benzene and ether but not dissolve in water. So, these are the two criteria can be seen in solubility concept. That means like dissolves like. Like dissolves like phrase will be seen here. What does it mean? Means non-polar molecules will dissolve in non-polar solvent, polar molecules will dissolve in polar solvents. So, that defines like dissolves like phrase. We will see here with example, non-polar molecules are dissoluble in non-polar solvents. Example, CCl4, which is a non-polar molecule, is soluble in non-polar solvent, that is benzene C6H6. Polar molecules are soluble in polar solvents, that is ethanol is soluble in water, which is a polar solvent, and ionic compounds are more soluble in polar solvents like NaCl in water or ammonia. This is the summary of solubility. Once again, non-polar molecules will dissolve in non-polar solvents, polar molecules will dissolve in polar solvents, and ionic compounds will dissolve in polar solvent. Next, we will see solubility of a solid in a liquid. Okay, solubility of a solid in a liquid. Dissolution of a solute in a solvent is a reversible change. Dissolution of a solute in a solvent is a reversible change. Yes, solute will dissolve in solvent, it can be a reversible change. If dissolution is the forward change, the crystallization is the backward change that takes place simultaneously. If solute is dissolving in solvent, that is dissolution, it is a reverse change. We have told that. How come it is a reverse change? If solvent is becoming to solute, the crystallization process will occur. So, simultaneously both the process will occur, dissolution one side, crystallization one side. When a large amount of solute is added to a given amount of a solvent, initially dissolution of the solute takes place. Initially dissolution will only takes place when large amount of solute is added to solvent. But as the concentration of the solute particles in the solution phase increases, in the backward change, crystallization begins and its rates starts to increase. Means when the concentration or the amount of solute will keep on increasing, means it will start to work as a backward change like crystallization, and the rate starts to increase of crystallization. At one stage, the rates of dissolution and crystallization become equal, resulting in a dynamic equilibrium. At one stage, crystallization and dissolution will reach a equilibrium. That equilibrium will call it as dynamic equilibrium between the solid solute and the solute particles in the solution phase. It will reach the dynamic equilibrium phase. So, the phenomenon of the increase in the concentration of solution due to the dissolving of solvent solute to the solvent is called dissolution. The reaching of solute phase to solvent phase, we will call it as dissolution, the phenomenon of collision of solute particles in a solution resulting in the separation of solute particles from the solution is called crystallization. Means backward reaction of solvent to solute, and the separation between solvent and solute particles after having collision, we'll call it as crystallization. A phase when number of solute particles going into solution is equal to the solute particle separating out of the solution is known as equilibrium. As I said, at one stage the rate of dissolution and the rate of crystallization will become equal. So that stage will be, or that phase will be considered as equilibrium. See here, solute going to dissolution, solute particles in solution, and solute particles after collision will come back to the solute phase, that is a solid phase called crystallization. And this is the equilibrium arrow mark which shows it is in dynamic equilibrium phase. This is about solubility of a solid in a liquid. If you want to know still about this, you can understand about saturated solution and unsaturated solution. We will see now a solution in which no more solute can be dissolved into the solvent at the same temperature and pressure is known as saturated solution. Take one example of 1 tumbler of water, you can add little bit of sugar. Initially it will dissolve completely. If you put some more sugar, it will not dissolve. That means no more solute can be dissolved into the solvent at same temperature and pressure. That means that liquid, that sugar solution will become saturated solution of sugar. Understand? A solution in which more solute can be dissolved in the solvent at the same temperature and pressure is called unsaturated solution. Little bit of solvent and more you can keep on adding to solute to that solvent at same temperature and pressure, it keep on dissolving. That solution will be considered as unsaturated solution, where that solute particle will remain as such after some time, we will call it as saturated solution. Here they have taken 30 gram of NaCl will form unsaturated solution, that is 100 ml of water, because it keep on dissolving. If you take 40 gram of NaCl in the 100 ml of water, after some time that NaCl will remain in the bottom, it will not dissolve completely. That means that is a saturated solution of NaCl or sodium chloride. It is about the saturated solution and unsaturated solution. It will be happen at same temperature and pressure. That is the main criteria. Next, effect of temperature on solubility of solid solute in a liquid solvent. Okay, what is the effect of temperature on the solubility of solid in liquid? We will see now. Since solid solute or solute particles in solution is a dynamic equilibrium, it follows Le-Chatelier's principle. According to this principle, increase in temperature shifts the equilibrium towards the endothermic change and decrease in temperature shifts the equilibrium towards exothermic change. Endothermic change means the energy is involved in the reaction. Exothermic change means the energy will be liberated from the reaction. But according to the Le-Chatelier's principle, increase in temperature will lead, the equilibrium will turn towards the endothermic change, and decrease in temperature shifts the equilibrium towards the exothermic change. Therefore, if the dissolution of a solute in a given solvent is endothermic, then its solubility increases with increase in temperature. That's why dissolution of any solvent, solute in a solvent will considered as endothermic change. Means energy will be involved in the reaction. As the temperature increases, the endothermic change will also keep on increases and solubility also increases. If the dissolution of a solute in a given solvent is exothermic, then the solubility of the solute decreases with the increase in temperature. If the dissolution of solute will change the equilibrium towards the exothermic change, then solubility of the solute will also decrease and temperature will also decrease. Note, for exothermic dissolution, enthalpy of solution will be less than 0. For endothermic dissolution, enthalpy of solution will be more than 0. So, these are the effect of temperature. So, endothermic change when it will happen, and how solubility will changes with temperature. These are the main points to remember here. Next, solubility of a solid in a liquid with respect to effect of pressure. There is no significant effect of pressure on the solubility of a solid solute in a liquid solvent. There is no significance of effect of pressure like temperature, no changes can be seen. This is because solids and liquids are highly incompressible and practically remain unaffected by changes in pressure. Because one physical property we know that solid and liquid highly incompressible. So, if you give the pressure also, it will not affect like gases. So, the effect of pressure on solubility of a solid in liquid cannot be observed. Next, solubility of a gas in a liquid. There are two kinds of solubility we have seen, solid in liquid and gas in liquid. One we have seen solid in liquid with effect of temperature and pressure also. Now we are seeing solubility of gas in liquid. Gases dissolve in liquids to form liquid gas solution. Example, carbon dioxide dissolves in water to form soda water. Water in wells, rivers and sea contains dissolved air which is used by aquatic animals for their breathing. You have seen aerated compounds or aerated drinks. There if you open the cap, it will be having some bubbles because of carbon dioxide dissolved in that drink. Means carbon in wells and aquatic region also carbon dioxide will be dissolved in water. Factors that influence solubility of gases in liquids. Nature of gas, nature of solvent, temperature and external pressure. These are the four factors which affect the solubility of gases in liquid. The nature of gases and nature of solvents. Non-polar gases are less soluble in polar solvents like water. For example, gases like O2, N2, H2 etc. which are non-polar are very less soluble in water which is a polar solvent. This we know polar molecule will dissolve in polar solvent. Here they are telling non-polar gases are less soluble in polar solvent like water. Okay, at room temperature and pressure. But CO2, that is carbon dioxide, hydrochloric acid, ammonia etc. being polar gases are highly soluble in water under identical condition. Means under some condition carbon dioxide, hydrochloric acid and ammonia and some more compounds, those are non-polar compounds. Though it is a non-polar compounds, it will highly soluble in polar solvents in identical conditions or in some conditions. Those are all exceptional conditions. For example, carbon dioxide in that aerated drink, soda water or water in well or sea water. That is the nature of gas and nature of solvent. Okay. Then effect of temperature. Generally, solubility of all gases in liquid decreases with increase in temperature. Okay, decreases in solubility in increase in temperature. Why means there are two reasons. Generally, dissolution of any gas in liquid is exothermic. Dissolution of gas in liquid is exothermic, means energy will be liberated outside from the reaction. According to Le Chatelier's principle, low temperature favors exothermic reaction. That is why gases dissolve more at low temperature and less at high temperature in liquids. Increase in temperature increases the kinetic energy of dissolved gas molecules. As a result, the gas molecule escape more from the solution phase by overcoming the attractive forces. If you increase the temperature in the gas or in the solution, dissolved gas solution, their kinetic energy will increase and it will escape from the solution phase. These are the two reasons why decrease in temperature will increase in solubility of gas in liquid. Next, effect of pressure on the solubility of gases. Solubility of oxygen is more in cold water than in warm water. That is why aquatic species are more comfortable in cold waters than in warm waters. And effect of temperature, the solubility of gas in a liquid increases with increase in partial pressure above the liquid. Here effect of pressure will be affected little bit. How means increase with the increase in its partial pressure above the liquid. Okay, when the partial pressure of the liquid will increase, obviously solubility of a gas will increase. Next, Henry's law. This law gives the quantitative relationship between the solubility of a gas in liquid and the partial pressure of the gas above the liquid at a given temperature. Here, we have seen effect of pressure will be observed in solubility of gas in liquid. Okay, we have seen that. So, it will show the relationship between solubility of gas in liquid as well as the partial pressure of gas above the liquid can also seen at given temperature. So, Henry's law states that at constant temperature, the solubility of a gas in a liquid is directly proportional to the partial pressure of the gas above the solution. What Henry's law stating? At constant temperature, the solubility of a gas in liquid is directly proportional to the partial pressure of the gas above the liquid. If the solubility of a gas is in mole fraction, the law can also be stated as the partial pressure of the gas above the solution is directly proportional to the mole fraction. Law can also be stated as partial pressure of the gas above the solution is directly proportional to the mole fraction gas in the solution. It is based on solubility of gas in liquid and also mole fraction of solute dissolved in that liquid. Okay, it is under normal pressure, it is in increased pressure. Okay. So, P is directly proportional to X, where P is partial pressure of gas and X is the solubility in mole fraction. Due to the proportionality constant, one constant will also introduce, that is KH. KH is nothing but Henry's law constant. So, what they are stating? X equal directly proportional to partial pressure of the gas and inversely proportional to Henry's law constant. It follows that higher is the value of KH, lower is the solubility of gas. This is solubility and it is indirectly proportional. Different gases have different KH, yes. Therefore, KH value depends on nature of gas. Henry's law constant will be different in different gases, so it will depends on nature of gas. For example, KH value of CO2 and O2 in water at 20 degrees Celsius are respectively 1.67 bar and 47 K bar. That is why CO2 is about 28 times more soluble in water than oxygen at given temperature. KH value increase by increasing the temperature. This indicates that solubility of gases in liquid decrease by increasing temperature. This is because the dissolution of a gas in liquid, dissolution of gas is an exothermic process. These 2 points we have seen in effect of temperature of solubility of gas in liquid. Here it is proved. When KH value increased by increasing temperature, that's why the exothermic reaction will occur and also the solubility of gas in liquid will also decrease. Some important applications of Henry's law. To increase the solubility of carbon dioxide in soda water and soft drinks, bottles are sealed under high pressure of CO2. To increase the solubility of gas in water in aerated drinks or soft drinks, they will put the pressurized caps to increase the high pressure. Oxygen cylinders used by sea waters or scuba divers are filled with air which is diluted with helium to minimize the solubility of nitrogen in the blood by decreasing its partial pressure to avoid the risk of bends. You have seen that scuba divers or seawater divers will have the oxygen cylinders dissolved in helium, because when the partial pressure, if it is decreased of that gas, they will not sink into that sea, they will come back to over the surface. At high altitudes, partial pressure of oxygen is less than that of ground level. This leads to low concentrations of oxygen in the blood and tissues of mountain climbers. In high altitudes also, you have seen that parachute holding or any other altitudes having a flying person will be wearing that jackets with cylinders. There also partial pressure of oxygen will be less. Low blood oxygen causes climbers to become weak and unstable to think clearly. These are symptoms of anoxia. Next problem regarding Henry's law. If nitrogen gas is bubbled through water at 293 Kelvin, how many millimoles of nitrogen gas would dissolve in 1 liter of water? Assume that N2 exerts a partial pressure of 0.987 bar. Given the Henry's law constant for N2 at 293 Kelvin is 76.48 Kelvin bar. Solution: according to Henry's law, this is the formula: P equal to KH X, this is mole fraction, X N2 equal to P inversely, because X equal to P by KH, 0.987 bar divided by 76.48 into 10 to the power of 3 bar equal to 1.29 into 10 to the power of minus 5. If you apply the mole fraction, moles of N2 divided by moles of water plus moles of N2, overall water will be mass of 1 liter of water divided by molecular mass 1000 gram by 18. This is mass of 1 liter of water, this is molecular mass of water, 55.55 moles. And you got this moles of water. So 1.29 into 10 to the power of minus 5 equal to number of moles of N2, 55.55 moles of water into moles of N2 will be present. So N2 is denominator is neglected because moles of N2 is less than 55.55. So it will be neglected. What will happen? 1.29 into 10 to the power of 5 equal to the moles of nitrogen divided by 55.5. So it will come here at the left hand side and it will come under right hand. You have to multiply now, and after the multiplication 71.66 into 10 to the power of 5 moles will present. So number of moles of nitrogen will be 0.716 mole will be present. This is about the problem of Henry's law and it will be related to mole fraction. In the next session, we will discuss about equilibrium vapor pressure of a liquid, Raoult's law, and ideal and non-ideal solutions. I hope you have understood completely whatever I have taught today. We will meet in the next session. Thank you.